Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. This is Jackie Kashian. You know the websites, JackieKashian.com, DorkForest.com. AllThingsComedy.com is the new podcast umbrella, and they have a million other comedy podcasts. If you are looking for more podcasts in your life, that's a good place to start. There is, on JackieKashian.com, an Amazon banner, so when you order from Amazon, and we all do, go to JackieKashian.com, click on that banner, and then do your regular ordering, and I get a tiny kickback. Life is good. So if that's one way that you can donate and support the show. Another way is to buy merch at JackieKashian.com, where I have t-shirts, CDs, and hoodies. I have some hoodies in stock. And then the donation button is there if you want to just donate directly. I'd love everyone to give me $100 a year. And if you don't have $100, well, give me what you can. Or just talk about and buy some merch. Do whatever you want. Anyway, the credits, of course, Mike Rickberg, Sarah Cohen just sang that song you heard. Mike composed and wrote that song, and he's going to sing Mexican Hat Dance again at the end. Vilmos will fix the website, and Patrick Brady is going to fix this audio. Thanks a lot for listening, folks. Let's get right into it. I'm in my living room here with Greg Franklin, who did the greatest animation ever.
Thanks, Jackie.
Sure. I've been meaning to have you on for about 2 years, and ever since I think we met. Because of that. And
I think it's almost been 3.
I think it might be. The illusion.
2010.
Yeah, the illusion that I haven't done an album in 3 years is obnoxious. Well, so I tend to, because I think I recorded the album in 2009.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, it's definitely one of the most well-received pieces I've ever done. People love it.
Oh, right. So people should know that on Jackie, the cat video, it's the animal bit, and we met.
It's had a few different names.
Right. It certainly has, LA Pet. It was on my set list. I just called it the animal bit.
Animals.
And animals. And then so it was LA Pet people, or I don't know what the hell.
Right. LA Pet Owners.
Pet Owners, I think, is what it's called now.
Uh-huh.
And it's got almost 100,000 hits, which is nothing to Kyle Kinane's, which I think has almost 500,000, right?
His just got a huge bump. I think it tripled. It's just because it got on Reddit. So maybe we should get LA Pet Owners on Reddit.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I just found out what Reddit is because I'm online a lot, but I can't be everywhere at once, people.
Yeah.
And so you want to introduce a whole new thing that is all about memes and the news? I can't. But I want to know. My niece, one of my jokes was on Reddit. It was on the front page of Reddit, and my niece, who is 21 and hence knows about Reddit, sent it to me and said, "Hey, you were on the front thing of Reddit," and it was the joke. It was a 12-year-old joke about it's the Jesus. It's a timeless joke, as are all of my jokes.
Oh, the George Bush giving Christians a bad name joke?
No, that is
that's really good.
Yeah, that is the filthiest joke on that album. But the one was give a man a fish. You know where to go for fish. Good, teach a man to fish, and you've just destroyed your market base.
Right.
That was the meme, and with a picture of me that they pulled off a screenshot of my half-hour special from 10 years ago.
Great.
So, in other news, let's talk about you.
Well, you mentioned that it's got like 100,000. Wasn't there some? You were mentioning something about how it couldn't monetize that video.
Yeah, they wouldn't let it monetize. I tried to monetize the YouTube video.
What is wrong with that video that you can't monetize?
I don't know. They said that they thought it was offensive to some people, which I thought was interesting because you can kick somebody in the crotch and you can monetize that. But you talk about putting your cat down.
So it was for content. It wasn't because of that one stray F-bomb.
Oh, you know what? Maybe that was it. I don't know.
I was always wondering. We never talked about it, but I think I read something online. It's like I can't.
You can't have any swearing.
That's ridiculous because.
Oh, there's some swearing on the internet.
Yeah, indeed.
The internet is full of cursing.
Yeah.
And so
we could do a bleeped version, maybe.
Right. You know what else we might want to do is I got one complaint, by 2 deaf guys because it isn't captioned, and.
That's so offensive.
Yeah, it's they
doesn't it automatically caption?
I thought there might be a YouTube thing that you can just press a button and it'll caption it, but who knows? I could caption it. I know I have some people who caption. It's possible. It's not.
We're not YouTube dorks.
Right. And the joke is so old now that I'm just like, and not that it's not a great joke, but
It's timeless. It's not old.
it's another timeless joke.
In 12 years, it'll be a meme.
12 years later. And that joke is that joke is 6 years old. Though I do sometimes still do a joke about my nephew and the chain to the wallet. And he was 16 when I wrote that joke. No, he was 18, and it was about when he was 16. And he's got to be 32, 33 years old now. He doesn't care. He's a good guy. And he's a grown-up man.
That's great.
And,
but still has the wallet, right?
Still has the wallet. He'll still do it. You know why? Because he loses his wallet. That's why. Because you're good friends with Bob Calhoun, who's been on the program.
Indeed, yeah.
And you
one
guys,
of my oldest friends.
One of your oldest friends. You guys were a wrestling duo.
That's right.
In San Francisco?
Right. Mm-hmm. In San Francisco. It was incredibly strange wrestling. We both did it for about 7 years. I was never
for 7 years.
We were kind of part of the roster of wrestlers, and behind the scenes we were writing a lot of the storylines.
Right.
And Bob was the announcer, so he kind of had the best judgment of the writers because he didn't really have any stakes in who won or lost.
Oh, right.
You know, like when you're wrestling, you kind of it's so funny because you have this feeling like, yeah, I did great. And you see the video and it's like, oh no, that was really awful. But if people are cheering and you're in this kind of phony fight,
right?
There's nothing probably better or worse for your ego to win a fake fight in front of people. So it's like, yeah. It's
awesome, kind of like.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I
It's
think
totally
Clint Eastwood
fun.
has talked about that. About how he's this fake tough guy.
Right.
And he's like, there's not, that has to be the most reward. And then to watch a video of it.
Yeah.
And to see what's actually happening.
Or if you get hurt. Sometimes I got hurt, you know, and.
Right, because you were just messing around, but it was.
I didn't know what I was doing at all at first. The story of how I got started was I was in San Francisco and I wanted to do like those cool rock and roll posters. You know, like
the graphics or
like Frank Kozik or Coop posters. They're screen printed.
Okay.
I just had no equipment or budget to do any of that kind of stuff. I had Photoshop.
Right. Sure.
So I was trying to do flyers and stuff in town. I was going to shows all the time. And I went to this incredibly strange wrestling show and I got pretty hammered watching it. It was a great show. If for people that don't know, it was like a band. Then they would have a set of wrestling and it was comedy / real
wrestling,
quote unquote real wrestling.
Okay.
And then a set that would be alternate band wrestling.
Wow.
And it was a crazy thing. And they would have, you know, punk bands. It was a Valentine's Day show.
What year is this?
This is 1996.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So they had I went to the Valentine's Day edition of Incredibly Strange Wrestling, and they had a thing where you win a date with a wrestler. And they pulled, you know, the name out, and the wrestler that was up, they had these kind of, you know, lady wrestlers with masks and capes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then El Homo Loco came out, and El Homo Loco is a genius. He's a physical comedian.
Okay.
He's got incredible charisma.
And he's still around.
He doesn't wrestle anymore, but he's still around. He's still with us. He lives in Portland, and he doesn't
Portland,
wrestle.
Oregon?
Yes.
Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he live in Portland, Oregon?
Yeah, he moved. He moved on in many ways.
Right.
But man, he was
His
so
name was
funny.
El Homo Loco?
El Homo Loco, a genius.
Okay,
like
which is a hilarious name, yes.
Yeah, so funny. He was the guy that was up next, and they pulled the name, and there was like a brief second where even in San Francisco, nobody said anything or did anything. This pause.
Right.
And I just like, that's it. I won. And I ran in. I didn't even have my ticket, I don't think. And I ran into the ring and ran the ropes. And then I, you know, went, yes, and held my hands up. And
you won the
cheated.
date with El Homo
I cheated.
Loco. You just strong-armed your way.
I just ran into the ring.
You're like, I'm going to be the guy.
I'm going to be that guy who won.
That is the greatest story in the world.
So I won a date with him.
Yes.
And it wasn't really a date. It
right.
was tickets to a show. I think it was
what kind of show?
It was a WCW pay-per-view at the Cow Palace that I actually already had tickets for.
A wrestling show.
Yeah, it was a wrestling show.
Okay.
And I met the people backstage,
Right.
and they
you
gave
and
me their
Bill. number.
And I called it. It ended up being the person who ran it, and I said, "Here's a pitch. How about let's say I went on this date, right?
Right.
And it went so poorly that I had to come back and avenge myself, and because it was such a disaster." And she said, "That's great. You're on the next show." And that's how I got started.
Greg Franklin, this is why when I saw 2 seconds of a video that you had done for Kyle Kinane, I said, that guy. I want to pay that guy to do my comedy album. Because you're hilarious. That is fucking awesome. You are an iron when the iron is striking hot, and you're the fucking. I'm gonna strong arm my way.
Yeah.
You are not gay.
No.
You wanted to go on. You wanted to win the thing.
It's all
and
for
then,
fun.
And then it's all for fun.
Yes.
Because you want to come back and avenge the worst date ever.
Right. And so I came back.
I want to grow
the
up
next
and
show.
be this story. That is the so okay. Then what happened?
Well, then what happened was I created a gay character called the Cruiser, based off of the Al
Sweet.
Pacino movie. I don't know if you've
Cruising.
seen it. Yeah, not a great movie.
Not
but
a great movie.
No, pretty insensitive. But you know, there's a thing.
But it had name recognition.
Gay guys and that whole like drag culture, they love crappy puns, you
Right.
know, like
okay.
sexy puns, dumb stuff. It went over well.
It had legs, did it?
It did. And I had this black mask and these little shorty shorts, and I covered myself in fake tan stuff. I was really into this.
Yeah.
And I went there. I didn't learn how to wrestle or anything, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was afraid of that. And I got pounded, and I hurt myself a few times. Like
what they do is so you do wrestling I will make an admission. The only wrestling I have ever seen was my grandma used to watch All-Star Wrestling when I was a kid in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
So the Crusher and Baron von Raschke and the High Flyers.
And the Wild Samoans, right?
Wild Samoans later.
Okay.
But it was completely insane.
Oh, yeah. Didn't you watch it with I'm watching a crime in progress? That's how I felt.
This isn't going to be a wrestling match. This is going to be a war. And it was always
exactly.
and the Crusher lived in our town. He lived in South Milwaukee. And so my dad would drive by his house sometimes and be like, he would drive by, I think, all the time. And then sometimes the Crusher would be outside mowing his lawn.
Right.
Or drinking a beer. And he would wave at people like he was in a parade.
Right.
And, right.
That's awesome.
So that's all I know about wrestling. So when you go into the ring, is it decided before you go in the ring who's going to win?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Of course it
and
is.
so when you
the specifics of how that happens is mostly up for grabs.
Okay.
A lot of times
maybe at a
wrestlers
different
improvise.
level. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, I think that's something that happens with experience, you know, and these guys who've done it for years, they know what to say to each other. Yeah, exactly. But I was not athletic.
You're art kid.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I got up on the top rope, which was something I never did since that time. I got up on the top rope, which was something we had just talked about doing.
Right.
And he did this thing. It's a wrestling move called the nut shot, and it's like a fake punch in the nuts.
Okay.
That doesn't really hurt.
Okay.
Basically, your arm kind of goes between the legs of the person, so everybody can see.
Oh, right, right.
You know.
So
but it doesn't. You know, really, it's like an armpit to the taint. Is more like it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I fell down.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to fall.
Right.
I kind of wadded myself up into a ball and landed. You're supposed to spread out. You know,
okay.
That's what you're supposed to do.
To spread out the impact to
spread out the impact.
Okay.
And you're supposed to hit, you know,
I don't know why I know that. I must have read that somewhere.
It's kind of common sense, really. Like you're supposed to spread it out across your back and hit your feet on the mat and absorb it. But I just crumpled into this little ball and fell in one spot on my spine. And everybody went from cheering to going, oh.
Yeah, because they could tell.
Yeah, they knew something was not right. And Yeah. So, but after that, I was hooked, and I ended up doing it. That's how I met Bob.
Because Bob was the announcer.
Yeah. He was actually a manager, and he wrestled a few times.
Okay. What's the manager position in such a thing? Do they book you? Or do they have a role?
They don't. It's not like a real manager. Like,
okay,
it's not like Dave Rath or something.
Right, It's not like an actual.
Right.
It's not Melanie Truitt.
Right.
Working for me to get me into Montreal.
It's a person who plays a part, and usually they do that with a wrestler that doesn't have great mic skills or presence.
Oh, okay.
They'll have a manager who talks. Basically, the manager kind of talks trash.
Okay.
And says, my wrestler is the best, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And so he was doing that for a while and then ended up being the announcer.
Right.
There was a lot of crazy disorganization, and he kind of realized that there was this nerd power vacuum that he could fill and became the announcer and head writer. And he and I would, hang out and talk about different.
Did you see his last book, The Shattering Convinced?
Oh yeah, I haven't read it yet though.
Yeah,
I've read paragraphs that he would send to me, like, what do you think of this? But I haven't read the book yet.
I read it because he asked me to write a blurb on the end of it, on the back of it, and it was fascinating. I had him.
Funny.
I had him on the show, him and his wife Rosie, on the show, and we talked about the book. And he was just out. He was just out of it, right? He had just gone to his, and because one of the most fascinating chapters is that the conspiracy convention that he went to.
Yeah.
And he was so depressed about it in the moment.
Yeah.
The chapter is funny and interesting and only vaguely depressing, right?
Right. The reality.
The reality. It was such a downer to listen to him because he was like, it was actually kind of scary and not cool. And I was like, oh man, Bob.
He told me about it. And
he was like, I have to go get a drink, the biggest drink in the world.
Yeah. I remember him telling me on the phone about it, about how, the moment something seemed reasonable, somebody would, like if you're a Bigfoot guy.
Right.
And you're kind of going on your Bigfoot thing, somebody can just say like, oh, well, the Illuminati's probably involved, and everybody goes, yep. It's like, well, can't I just be into Bigfoot?
Right.
Can't I just like that?
Dana Thompson just had a Bigfoot dork on.
Oh, yeah.
And she didn't get to talk about it because it was a panel with comics, so she didn't get to really. She brought up to Bigfoot, and then there was a lot of whack-a-mole.
Right.
But we'll have her back on when she gets to actually expound about Bigfoot and her love of Bigfoot.
There was a Bigfoot con, I believe, that he went to.
Yeah, he went to a Bigfoot. He went
specifically
to that and the gun con.
Oh,
there were a couple of cons.
That one would depress me.
Well, he said he had to bail a little early on some of the cons. He was like, I'm actually uncomfortable at this point. And he said in that conspiracy chapter, he said that there was a guy up speaking. And he said he would name somebody and the entire audience would actually murmur the word Jew.
Oh.
He said he lasted about 4 times when they said the word Jew, and he was like, and I'm done.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was
That's terrifying.
It was terrifying. And I was like, no wonder he was kind of depressed when I talked to him. They were more interested in talking about the costumes that they had Rosie had collected.
Right.
So, so then you guys ended up being a duo for a little while. What was the name of the duo?
We weren't really a duo.
It wasn't?
Per se. Not like a tag team or anything.
Okay.
Is that what you mean? Like a.
I don't know what. I feel like you wrestled together at some point, or did you wrestle each other?
We did over like a few times. We did. I'm trying to think of some. We did a great match with one of Bob's characters called the Christian, which was he wore like a Jesus robe.
Okay.
And this is Bob, and he's like.
He's a big guy.
He's a big guy, and he would carry a big cross that was made of plywood, and he would take it to the ring, and we did a Christians versus the Cruisers match, and he hit me with these like
incense
what do you call
things,
the things they put the 10 Commandments on? Those big stone tablets.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and he would hit me with those. And they were bad,
Right.
These matches
were
really
not.
The props were bad, the match was bad, but it was so funny. And at the end, I think I beat him, and he said, "Father, why have you forsaken me?"
Oh my God, that is the greatest timing ever. That is,
he did it great. It was great.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Good
it was
for him.
really funny.
Oh my gosh. So
but yeah, we mainly were writing most of the storylines.
Oh, for the other.
For other characters, yeah.
Okay.
We would all get together in somebody's apartment, the whole cast.
Right.
And you
how
know
many
how
people?
it is. It varied, but it was between 12 and 25
Okay.
people. You know.
So a dozen people sitting around talking about wrestling
a
and
dozen
coming up
and a
with
half people.
Yeah.
And you know how it is when creative people are talking and some idea that sounds really funny in the room will kind of run away.
Yes.
And end up being not the greatest idea,
right?
But it's just funny and everyone's laughing at it. This would happen all the time. So Bob would say, "We have to write these things beforehand, and come to the meeting prepared, and not let everybody throw in all this stuff."
Okay.
And one of the things that he was best at was logistically figuring out, because some of us would play like 3 or 4 characters.
Okay.
So you couldn't make a costume change right after your match,
right?
For example, and he would always like put it together like a puzzle. It always fit together, which was really handy when we went on Warped Tour. We traveled throughout incredibly strange wrestling.
Incredibly
was part of the 2001 ISW.
Okay.
Warped Tour 2001. We went all over Mexico, Canada, United States, the whole, and then and then our last big thing was we went to Europe in 2003.
What?
And we were done by that point. It was beautiful to go to Europe for free, but it was not. It wasn't that pleasant. And he wrote a book about our wrestling past.
Yes, I remember that. I forget the name of that one.
Beer, Blood, and Cornmeal.
That's it. Beer.
Because they used to throw tortillas at us.
Oh, okay.
To keep us from throwing beers at us, they would give the audience corn tortillas.
And that would be better.
Yes.
What about,
kind of. They get a little powdery after a while.
And then someone has to clean up 1,000 tortillas.
Yeah.
What
indeed.
about, so do you watch, have you ever been to that Viva La Vucha La Lune?
I never have been to it.
Okay.
Although I know,
Dana Gould and Blaine Capatch do it all the time.
And the Poubelle twins, who, also work in animation, who used to work at the company that
that you work?
it's 6 Point Harness. They've worked there in the past.
Okay.
So they're kind of got the wrestling bug too, even though they're.
I just met a guy, Vince Averill, who's a comic, who was like, "I need to be on and talk about wrestling," and I said, I've tried to talk about wrestling before. Can you give me the history of wrestling? So we've talked about wrestling probably for 15 minutes, but so there's going to be, but wrestling, I think people love wrestling.
Yeah.
People are on.
I don't know if they still do.
People still love wrestling. And it's going to be, I think there'll be a couple of episodes about wrestling coming up because people really are like, yeah, I would, let's talk about all the current wrestlers and the weird wrestling and this different stuff. But I also wanted to talk to you about cartoons, just because you've been making, how long have you been doing animation?
Around the same time I started wrestling.
Really?
Yeah. Well, before that I worked at
Are you self-taught or did you go to school? What'd you do?
I've drawn my entire life.
Okay.
But at a certain point, growing up I wanted to like draw for Mad Magazine, which is probably, for the purposes of this podcast, my biggest dorkdom was Mad Magazine. I had every issue that I could get.
Right.
I loved all the different styles. I love when things are serious, like a movie like Airport 77.
Right.
But they would put Fred Flintstone sitting there in the airplane, It's just something ridiculous.
So I never read it. My brothers read it,
really?
But yeah, and so they read. They would take like a serious one and then do it. I know they did Board of the Rings.
Yes.
My brother Phil talks about Board of the Rings.
Oh wait, the book. There was a book, Board of the Rings, that I believe was the Harvard Lampoon book.
Right, but I thought that they did a Mad Magazine.
For the movie.
Yeah, for the movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess there's only so many puns you can do off the Lord of the Rings.
I thought it was in the Mad Magazine when Lord of the Rings, like in the 70s. Was that a Harvard Lampoon
That's
thing?
a Harvard Lampoon book that was a parody of...
Which is different than the Mad Magazine.
Yeah, because they do strictly movie and TV parodies.
Okay.
And in a comic book form.
Okay.
And
Mad
the Lord of the
Magazine
Rings is great too, because they have new art. I mean, it's been going on, it's like 60 years or something of Mad Magazine, and they have still the best artists. Still just the funniest.
Is it still coming out, Mad Magazine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be, right?
Yeah, it's still going. It's color now.
Okay.
And it has ads now, which is unfortunate because the publisher, Bill Gaines, it was one of his creeds, like we'll never have ads in this magazine.
Right.
Because we don't want people to confuse our parody commercials with real commercials.
Okay.
And it was just a point of integrity.
Yeah. And then people were like, we don't care. You have a large readership.
He passed away, I think, in the late 90s or the early aughts. And it's owned by DC Comics or Time Warner or whatever. And they're like, we're going to put video games ads in, and we're going to switch to color. They switched to a full color magazine. Okay. But it's still really good, and they do parodies of Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, which was really funny. Game of Groans. I still love puns.
Well, the thing about puns is that they will make you laugh against your very will.
Yeah, oh yeah.
A well-placed pun is completely outstanding in your field. Jesus.
Yes.
It's just, and Andy Ashcraft will not stop with a pun. Yeah. So I'm on board.
Okay. It was, and the art is just, it's impeccable. It's so good.
All different styles, all different. Okay.
Yeah. And there's you know how when you read a name and you never talk about it with anybody, you don't really know how it's pronounced? Yeah. There's this guy in Hermann Mejia. I think it's Mejia. Okay. It's like Meijia or something. Okay. He's phenomenal.
He's an amazing artist.
He is. And he's the guy who does, when they do Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, he does those epic...
He's the medieval sword and sorcery drawing guy?
Parody, drawing guy.
And is it spare or is it detailed?
It's very detailed, and it's it's really cartoony mixed with
Have you ever read Ogloff?
I don't know Ogloff.
Ogloff is a filthy webcomic that a woman writes and draws. Ogloff.com.
Okay. Not Kate Beaton, but...
No, it isn't Kate Beaton, who's Harka Vagrant, right?
Okay.
And
I'm a big fan of hers.
Yeah, she's amazing, right? But she does real line drawings. The Ogloff lady is. I bought a hard copy of the book for Andy for Christmas.
Oh, I think it's really vile, right? Like
it's mostly just somebody sucking something at all times. At all times, and
violent too,
and very violent. But weirdly, like every fourth or fifth strip won't have any sex or violence in it. It'll just be a weird pun. She's just hilarious. Like she had these dwarves who were constantly making machines that were pointless and dumb. They were like, "We have the best idea. This is going to be a cloud counter or some damn thing." Like for no fucking. And they're always funnier than that, by the way. Right. And but then sometimes they're like, there's just no. Yeah. So,
and what's the URL? Ogloff.com?
Yeah, it's just Ogloff.com. OGLAF.com.
Okay.
And so tell a story. I'll be right back.
Oh, tell a story. Tell us a story. Let's see.
Early comics.
Early comics?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, other than me, like, reading tons of Matt. Oh, there it is. This is Ogloff, book 1. Yeah. I've seen this. This is fantastic.
So it's super cartoony, but it's just there's always somebody sucking a cock.
Yeah, and there's lots of
and the word cock is used all the time.
There's lots of shininess that's painted on.
Really? Sort of like an airbrush
feel?
A lot
of highlights here. Yeah, it makes everything look really wet.
Sparkly.
Indeed. Yeesh. Wow, man. Yeah, I gotta get this. This is great.
That's completely ridiculous. And every Sunday, it comes out every Sunday for some reason.
Really?
Yes.
Well, of course.
Right.
It kind of makes sense.
It's the Lord's Day.
And it's the day of great television.
Is it?
Well, yeah, that's when Mad Men and Breaking Bad and all those things
Everything's
come out.
On.
Great Game of Thrones.
Yep.
I think The Sopranos started all that.
Sure. I never, I haven't been able to watch any of those 3, by the way.
Really?
I watched the first Game of Thrones, and I tried to read Game of Thrones, and then I tried to listen to it on Audible. So George R.R. Martin has gotten my money. We're not saying he hasn't. I said I've tried. I can't. When I read the book, I was like, oh, all of these people are dead. And I read like the first 120 pages, and the second time I read 180 pages. And then I watched the TV. I just tried to listen to the TV show.
Right.
And he's not a wordsmith. This is not a guy.
Right.
Nobody's editing him.
Right.
So he is a chatty Magoo, and he so listening to it on Audible was interminable.
Right.
And so the TV show, I was like, oh, everybody's super bad. Nobody's nice. They're going to kill that little boy. and I was like, I gotta go. And too tense.
Right.
And I watched the first 3 seasons of Breaking Bad. And then I was like, oh, this probably isn't going to get any better. These people's lives are probably not going to improve at all.
Well, yeah, it gets better in terms of like how compelling it is, but no.
Oh, and I'm not saying it isn't well done.
Yeah.
And my brother Russ likes to call me and tell me how things are going on Mad Men. Because my favorite part of Mad Men is the ad campaigns.
Right. I can see that one being the most acquired taste, the Mad Men.
That was the first one I watched, actually, just because I thought it was pretty. You know?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah.
And the advertising, I
the
love
art direction is amazing. Yeah.
I'm gonna pour some coffee. Maybe you'll hear in the distance, Rangers. So, So you have been drawing forever.
Yeah. Always drew forever. And what happened was I kind of felt like, I'm not going to be good enough to work for Disney.
Right.
Which is kind of what you could do.
People set you up for that kind of thought process, though.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I just kind of did what I did and
stopped.
I stopped drawing pretty much, and I wanted to do like live action movies.
Okay.
And I went to film school at San Francisco State.
Okay.
And really quickly learned that I didn't have enough money to do that because we were shooting on 16 millimeter film. Oh. I went to State with like $600 that I'd saved up. Oh. And I spent it all on the first day of my movie. I had no money and I couldn't finish it.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Wait, so you went, so you spent it on the first day of class, essentially?
For my movie, because you had to make a movie.
Okay.
And people had thousands saved up because you had to pay for film and
help.
and you had the developing everything, props, stuff that you needed.
Yeah.
And I didn't have an idea for my film.
Okay.
And what happened was that Kurt Cobain had committed suicide.
Right then.
And I thought, and that very day I'm like, I'm going to make my movie about that, and I'm going to make it like a cheesy Lifetime movie about Kurt Cobain. And make it really sensationalistic. And,
I really want to see that.
I wish it existed. I still have the undeveloped film in my freezer. It's still in there.
Wow. For one day. For one day when you happen to have $800 to get it all developed or whatever?
Yeah, well, it never got developed. So it's just sitting there, probably rotten. I mean, by now. It's been, when was that? Like 93 or something?
Yeah, 93. So, it might be good, right? I mean, it's probably still fine.
Yeah, it's like one page of the script that got filmed, and I went for the second day, and I needed a gun for a prop for the final scene, and I could not get a gun. No one would give me a gun. I couldn't rent one.
Right.
I mean, I guess it's easy to get a gun now, but back then in San Francisco, I was like looking at
toy guns.
I was looking. I went to an antique shop on Market Street and found this almost a musket. Right. I'm like, this will have to do.
Jesus.
This will have to do. And I was trying to, and I didn't have any money to, I just need it for a day. I'll bring it back.
Yep.
They said, no way. No way. I'm like, here's my ID and my ATM
collateral.
card, and they're like, you're going to give us an unsigned ATM card as collateral. I was like, they're like, no way. And that my movie my directing career.
You were like 18, right?
No, I was older. I went to community college first.
Okay.
So I was like 22.
So what did you do? You were like, I want to do live action, and then you were like, I'm not going to do live action.
I just couldn't do it.
Right.
I mean, I could.
Months later, you were like, or weeks later, or days later, you're like, I'm going to San Francisco State, and then a week later, you're like, I guess I'm not going to San Francisco State.
No, I continued to go for a while, but I needed to get a job, and and I had to support myself.
Yeah.
And I worked at the San Francisco Zoo for about 3-4 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I ran the Adopt an Animal program.
Okay.
Right into the ground. That's what I did.
Greg Franklin, sometimes you were not the hero of your own story.
No. That was a dark period. The whole thing is a scam anyway. I mean, let's face it. It's
Adopt an Animal?
the money doesn't go to the animal you want it to go to necessarily.
Because it just goes to all the animals?
Yeah, it really just goes to pay middle management.
Right.
I mean, that's the pay my salary is what you're buying.
Whenever a canvasser comes to my door, I was like, I used to do this. I know that 40% of every dollar I give you goes to you.
Right.
And then another 25% goes to dropping you off and picking you up at night. So, there's 15%.
Exactly. I mean, there were people that would want to give money to the orangutans. And the San Francisco Zoo, I think it's a lot better now.
Yeah.
But at the time I worked there, they still had the, row cages from the 30s.
Right. This is more of an internment camp than.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're like the zoo that you would see on the Three Stooges.
The Bowery Boys are at the zoo.
Yeah, exactly. There's it's like animal jail.
Animal jail. The first time I went to the LA Zoo, I swear to God, I saw a monkey just look at me and go, I'm going to kill myself if you don't get me out of here. It was one of the saddest zoos I had ever been in. And I suppose it's better. It's supposed to be better now, but the Milwaukee Zoo, where I grew up, is one of the best zoos in the world.
Right.
It's like San Diego and San Diego and all that stuff. And so when I would go to the zoo, I'd be like, oh, this is beautiful. This is nice. And so when I went to the LA Zoo, I was like, this is one of the most depressing things I've ever seen in my life.
No, totally. The zoos are sad, and those row cages weren't the star animals. It would be like a bobcat that's asleep in a ball in the corner.
Right. It's
and
like
some guy who's like, some guy's like, hey, hey, get up, entertain me. Come on, bobcat.
Oh my God, it's the pet store of zoos.
It was really sad, and I would work there and kind of doodle like I always doodled,
right?
And people would say, "What are you doing? What are you doing working here?
Right.
This is ridiculous.
You could do that. Draw."
So I eventually, during the .com boom, was able to. I mean, anybody could probably get a job back then anyway, but.
Yes, again, you belittle your own skill, but you parlayed it into a job in the .com boom, working for an internet thing, or
I was actually working for AOL, and I did illustrations for. They would have little story of the day kind of things, and I would do 10 of those a week.
So you're completely, essentially self-taught.
Pretty much, yeah. I never
and the
had
software and all that.
Yeah. I had to take a crash course in the software to get that job.
Because I remember when I showed up, you were working on the LA Animal Pet thing, and I show up, and there's there's a dozen people in the middle of the night, working, and and 3 of them are working on my thing, and there's the guy, and people have styluses against computer screens.
Yes, that's right,
and that is crazy.
Yeah, you can draw right on the screen,
and it feels like it was pre-iPad.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
definitely was.
What is somebody told me once the name of that.
It's a Cintiq. It's like
Cintiq is the name of the brand
name of the actual screen that you buy.
Okay.
And you can draw on.
And you could draw on it, and then so you don't have to draw with your mouse, which is one of the hardest things in the world.
Right. And when I started, that's how you did it.
You had to do it like that.
Yeah. Well, they had just started coming out with these Wacom or Wacom tablets. There's different pronunciations.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That would be separate from your screen. So you were kind of drawing on one surface and looking at another surface.
Oh,
and it was very tedious.
Yeah,
we
it's
did
like
that
learning
for
how to
years.
type.
Yeah, but it was still better than a mouse.
Oh, I suppose.
Which drawing? It's like drawing with a bar of soap, which is how they used to talk about it.
Yeah. So when you draw on the Cintiq thing now, right on the screen, are you looking at a screen that's perpendicular? Like my screen, like my regular computer screen?
I can move it like this.
So you could put it
like a piece of
flat.
paper, if I want to turn it like I was drawing on paper to really get in there,
that's
I can
awesome.
move it around.
Yeah. So what's the first animation? Did you do your own animation first, or did you do, I've always done others? One
of the things that was great, I totally did others.
Yeah.
The good thing about the .com I was working at was they were so flush with money. Like if you wanted to learn something, they would pay, for you to try stuff and learn stuff. And so I went to a couple conferences. It was amazing because there were people at that job that were doing animation in Flash on a computer.
Yeah.
And my eyes just bugged out of my head. Never seen anything like that. And it was the Three Little Pigs, the Disney Three Little Pigs that they were doing. And they were these little storybooks for Disney.
Yeah.
And this is 97 or 8,
right.
something like that.
Right.
And they were for CD-ROM. Internet couldn't handle
right.
that kind of stuff. And it was the first thing I'd seen where it's like, you can do a cartoon of like a real
You can do a cartoon with just this sort of found software.
Yes.
Just anything sitting around.
This software, yeah, exactly. And you could put it all together. And you could
make
put
a thing.
And make a thing that moved.
Wow.
Your own drawings moving around. And so I really wanted to do that. And I just kind of learned on the job.
Okay.
And because it was really hard to draw, and because I wasn't like trained or anything in drawing.
Right.
The first thing I ended up animating was Mickey Mouse, oddly enough.
Okay.
They had these books that they would give to licensors for beach towels and things.
Yeah.
And it was full of these beautiful black and white line drawings of Mickey Mouse, every pose imaginable, every expression imaginable. And so I would put him in the computer. Nobody told me to do that.
Right. Oh, you weren't assigned.
Well, I was supposed to do it, but I was supposed to draw it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Yeah. Almost sounded like Mickey Mouse there. And I just scanned all these pictures, and I realized, I'm like, hey, you know what? If I just cut his head off and put this body under him, and then kind of cut this arm off, my bosses didn't know about this. They were like, draw every frame.
Yeah.
But only do every 8th frame that you would do for animation.
Okay.
Because the computer can't handle it. Back then,
just
everybody
not
had
fast enough.
56K modems, and it was the internet was not fun yet. They didn't have YouTube or anything.
Right, and it was just Prodigy, just typing.
Yeah, exactly. Usenet. But these things. So they would. That's the weird thing about the Flash is it was the speed of the frame rate of your cartoon or whatever was dependent on how fast your computer was. So you had to make it for the slowest, shittiest computers a lot of the times.
That makes sense, I suppose, right? So that it could play.
Right. So I was starting to. I'm like, yeah, but if you
just cut and paste.
If I just cut and paste this stuff, and I did this really bizarre cartoon it was for Disney 2000, which was like a year or two away at that point.
Right.
Really strange. A little boy looking out his window.
Yeah.
And he sees a shooting star, and he catches it in his hand, and he looks at it. And this is a little kid that looks like the little boy from Peter Pan with the footy pajamas.
Yeah, yeah.
And he looks in his hands, and this magical pixie dust starts to form.
Right.
And Mickey Mouse appears in his bedroom at night and hugs the child. Yep. And that was what it was.
That was the whole thing.
That was the whole thing. It was what I used to call skip intros, Like when you go to a website and it says, "You want to skip this?" Yes, definitely.
I like that. That's one word. It's a skip intro.
Yeah, you skip them. That's what you do with them. People didn't know that back then.
No, they sat through it magically. Magically, they're like, "Yes, I need to see this."
Exactly. But you'd always have the option to skip, and you could just skip away and. So
you were making that.
So I made that. Yeah, that was the first animation that I ever did. And my boss would come to me and be like, "Where's all the drawings?" And I'm like, "They're in here and in here," pointing to my head and the computer. He's like, "Okay." He was very skeptical, but it turned out because it was drawn by like licensing artists, like I didn't draw any of this stuff.
Right.
I drew the kid. He looked really weird.
Right.
But
wow, is that online? Should we link that in the notes?
I highly doubt it's still online, but maybe it's on that Internet Archive.
Oh, right.
Yeah, maybe we should. Yeah, maybe we can find it.
Maybe you can find it. Okay,
yeah,
I'll
possible.
all right.
It's very creepy.
Yeah,
it'll make you stay up at night.
I totally. I want to see
I was
it.
like, who wrote this? Mickey goes into a kid's bedroom and hugs him.
It's okay because it's Mickey.
Yeah,
it's like when I saw G.I. Joe and Bruce Willis had the arsenal in his kitchen. I was like, it's okay. I don't want everyone to have an arsenal, but Bruce Willis can have one because he'll use it for good.
Right.
And Mickey will just hug the kid and move on.
Yeah.
And so what? So how did you end up? Just because you said that you could talk about a lot. Is there more stand-up animation that I don't know about?
There are a few.
Because you did me and Mike Kaplan and Kyle Kinane and
Wyatt Cenac
and Doug Benson, right?
I did an intro for Doug Benson,
right?
And It was really interesting, and really doing that is what made me want to try to do stand-up.
Yeah.
I'd actually tried it as a teenager.
Right. And why not?
Which was fun. Yeah.
Here's another thing that Greg Franklin's never done. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So you've been going up, right?
I have. I have. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's fun. We actually did a show together.
We did.
That a year or two ago.
It was that weird bar.
Oh yeah, the Hollywood Hotel in the basement.
Oh, the basement one with Ed Brubaker.
Yes, and Ed Brubaker was there.
Ed Brubaker came down, and he's been on the show. Yeah. He's exciting.
And Maria Bamford was on that.
Right.
It was a fun. Those are good shows down there.
I don't mind that room, that Hollywood Hotel room. But the one we did before that was the one with the rail bar, and then people sitting in the way back.
The rail bar.
It's in like Koreatown. It was some dive bar next to a.
The Lexington.
It wasn't. It was. No. It was probably 2 years ago. Because I think, whatever. This is a fascinating tale for.
I don't remember that one.
Right.
I don't. I think you might be mixing it up with somebody.
No, because I think it was me and Maria and Laura Keitlinger did it one time, and another time me and you did it.
Oh, yeah. I was just doing the open mic section of that. Okay. I just showed up to laugh. That was the Blue Monkey.
That was it. The Blue Monkey.
That weird Blue Monkey place.
The weird Blue Monkey place.
They don't do shows there anymore.
That's really for the best. They shouldn't do anything there. They should turn themselves into like a methadone clinic or something.
Yeah, really. That whole place was really weird. Like it's a bar with 4 people in it, and yet the bouncer has like a headset, like he's gonna, like he's.
He did have a headset.
Yeah, it's like, oh man.
Wow, what's this a front for? What's happening? Where's the money laundering going on?
I don't know. That place is always closed. It's one of those places I drive by it constantly because I work down there. But
yeah, that was crazy.
The Blue Monkey.
So what other?
The thing is that doing those animated cartoon bits, I started to realize they would frustrate me sometimes because I realized that stand-up as a medium is completely different, and sometimes doesn't lend itself to typical like storytelling, like visual
animate.
story, cartoon, live action, whatever it is.
Got it.
Because a lot of times, and you know, back me up on this, the stand-up comic will tell the punchline first sometimes. Oh. In a weird way. Like you kind of give away the store with the first line and then kind of elaborate on it. Okay. And build it up into a whole new area. Right.
Essentially they tell the point of the joke.
Right.
So they're just like, here's in the setup, there is sort of the point of the joke.
Right. And almost the punchline of the joke, really.
Right.
And it's like a one-liner, and then there's a whole there's a whole story that comes after it.
You can do it that way. That's why people who write one-liners have to write a lot of jokes.
Right.
Well, I've told you what the joke is going to be about, and you can sort of anticipate my different reasoning for it.
Right. And the climax of the joke would be like a twist on the first part.
Right. There might be a bookend.
Build up in a different way.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I would but if I'm visually giving away the store, like in the first line, I've got to figure out other stuff.
Right. You can't.
To do there.
Yeah.
And just listening to it and listening to the laughs, listening to the beats over, and animation's a tedious process.
Because you have to listen to the words so many times.
Over and over and over again. That I was just like, I think I want to try this.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, really, it was I think right after yours that I started.
I think so because
doing open mics.
Well, because when you did like Kyle Kinane's, it's the bunny's face fucking thing, and all of the images as we go through that because he's telling it's essentially just a story in his case,
right?
He gives away what's going to be happening in the probably because it's a 3-minute bit. I think so.
And there's a little bit that's not connected where he talks about little moments.
Right.
That's kind of his version.
The
of it.
retarded couple helping each other across the in the Incredible t-shirts.
Yeah, the Incredibles.
Yeah,
that's kind of the exception that proves what I'm talking about because his is really a theme about little moments that if you don't pay attention to them,
you can miss them.
And they're what life is all about.
Right.
This face fucking bunnies being one,
right.
and this mentally challenged
couple yes.
crossing the street with
retarded is a clinical term. Rangers of the Dork Forest. I'm using it clinically. I'm not a 9-year-old
right.
making fun of someone. So
yeah. But I think yours, and especially like Mike's and Wyatt's,
right.
Had a little bit of a different, more classical, I guess, stand-up structure where you kind of tell the theme. Because I set it up
and I say people are crazy in Los Angeles about their animals,
right?
And then I give several
examples. Example of the specific thing. I'd have to look at it where it gave me a thing where it's like I have to do something different on the beginning. That's
right, because I can't give it away.
Yeah,
that people are not taking care of their animals or whatever.
And I have a lot of theories about doing this, having done so many of them. I think that one of the ones that got me started was there's a Patton Oswalt bit that's on the internet. It's the Christmas shoes bit, and it drove me nuts because the jokes kind of run counter to what they're not supporting the bit.
Oh, the animation? Is it animated?
It's animated, and somebody did it, and I forget the name, but
right.
For example, he would say Patton would say something like, "Look, allow me to be brief." And he would show like a pair of underwear.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, come on, man.
Oh my God. That is not cool.
Yeah.
Because seriously.
it's like the comedian is not going to be funnier than, the cartoonist is not going to be funnier than Patton.
Right. What you did, genuinely, and I've talked about this before, is just the support vehicle.
Right.
What you were doing was supporting the joke.
Right.
Because what you say about Kyle's joke being about celebrating the tiny things in life, when he's watching those bunnies and he pulls out his iPhone to record the bunnies, that was the moment that I said I want to work with you.
Awesome.
Because I was like, okay, that guy has to be hilarious to think of that. It wasn't a joke on top of the joke. It was completely
kind of a variation on a theme.
Yeah, it was a support structure for the joke. And like putting the cat in the Baby Bjorn was hilarious to me. Me throwing the damn cat out was the meanest, funniest part of that thing. And I remember I said, "Oh my God, that's brutal." Whoops. And you were like, "Do you want me to take that out?" And I was like, no, we got to keep it because that's what people think.
But there was a pause
want.
there. There was a little consideration, to that.
For sure, because there was a moment when I was like, because that's what people always think about that bit is that I hate animals, and so they're like, "Oh, she's the kind of person who would throw a cat out," and I'm like, "Let's go there. I am not the kind of person who would throw a cat out." And
but yeah, that other one, it kind of gave me like, I didn't like it, but it gave me an idea for an approach like that.
Or what you didn't want. I mean, at least you could see
exactly.
that.
And it kind of gave me a direction into doing those. I think there was another one where Patton says like, "Oh boy," and there's a picture of Boy George.
Oh Jesus God! It's a VH1 pop-up video.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. It's the jokes from Blind Date. I can't live that life.
Right, it's crazy. There was another show actually called Shorties Watching Shorties that was on Comedy
Central where they animated
people's
joke.
Bits.
Yeah,
and that was made by Augenblick Studios out of New York, and they're great. It was definitely produced quickly.
Yes,
like you can't judge their quality of their work because they had to do so many.
Right, they had to crank them out, right?
Yeah, and you can't reuse stuff. Like the Simpsons living room is in every episode. They don't have to redraw that.
Oh, right.
You
have to do everything unique.
You have to do everything unique to the bit.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I remember the thing that. Was it The Onion? No, it might have been Comedy Central again.
Oh, The Onion, yeah.
Was it The Onion with that?
Yeah.
With they wanted people's stories about doing stand-up?
Right. They actually approached me about doing that.
I know it. And then but they wanted it cranked out so fast, and they wanted to give you like less than a nickel, if I remember correctly.
I mean, not to bag on it, but they're they have a budget.
Right.
And I think one of the downfalls in me doing these things is I knew that I had to do them for way less than what normal animation would cost.
Right.
And to that end, I did them on weekends and evenings.
Right.
And not during, regular hours.
Right. You had to squeeze it in, which is why it took several months.
Yeah, it took several months.
But when Andy and I came to check the final storyboard thing, right?
Right.
And I remember when I saw that storyboard, by the way, and I was like, well, this will be fine. Why don't we just use this? And you were like,
we're done.
You're like, my toy, not done yet. You cannot show anybody this storyboard. This is not anywhere near finished. But
that's true.
Yeah. And when we showed up to look at that and we left and Andy was like, I didn't know he was fully animating every word out of your mouth. And I was like, oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
Because it wasn't Flash, and Andy thought it was going to be that sort of cardboardy kind of looking South Park.
It is Flash.
It is Flash?
I did it in Flash, yeah.
Okay.
For sure. I just added a few more drawings. The key here's what was different about yours.
Okay.
Is you talk a lot more than Kyle.
I am chatty as all hell. Oh yes, I am the original.
Every time you said something, it was evocative of something, and I'm like, I can't leave these opportunities on the table.
Right, right.
I can't.
Right.
Like, it ended up being by far the most work intensive one
of all of them.
Of all of them. Although Mike's was,
because I can say things in 1,000 words that others can say in 10.
But you say them in the same space that some, like, time wise.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I can't just hang out with Kyle.
Yes.
Let him just sit there and kind of laugh,
Ooh, that's a good facial impression of Kyle.
He's just sitting there kind of laughing at bunnies, and I could eat up 12 seconds doing that.
Right.
On one drawing. But,
yep.
But I think it all worked out because that one is just so fast and it's so evocative, and I think everybody can relate to.
Right, and we talked briefly about doing the whole. But it would cost like $100,000, like, because you would have to do a whole album.
Oh yeah, probably would.
Yeah, just because you would have to be able to live while you did it.
It would probably do if I did it the same way. If I did it the same way, yeah, it would take a lot longer. Obviously, What did it take me? Like,
I think
5 or 6 months.
I feel like it was maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
It was a long time.
It was
and
a
that
long
was
time.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing a new album this December, and I was thinking about doing a Kickstarter where I was like, is there a way that he could hire everybody and we could get out a DVD,
the whole album. Oh man, that would be epic.
Because it's tentatively titled Jackie-cation 3. This will make an excellent Horcrux. And but it's going to be because I haven't had an album out in over 3 years, right? 3 years.
Yeah.
So I have plenty of material.
Sure.
So it's going to be 40, 45 minutes of hopefully really great stuff.
Let's do a Kickstarter for it.
Let's do it. We could do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's an idea.
Let's all get rich off a Kickstarter.
Right. If we could just.
We talked about it before, and I think it was a time when it seemed like
too late. It felt like it was too late to do it for the last.
Everybody is already done.
Yeah.
Oh well. I thought it was a Kickstarter concern that you had. That's like, oh man, it's so obnoxious when people are bugging me all the time for these Kickstarter projects.
I had that feeling. I've always had that feeling about a Kickstarter as well. Sadly.
Sure. I understand that.
And so, but it's always interesting to find, because Dan Schlissel, who was the Stand Up Records producer on the album, he has always wanted a cell.
Right. And
you're like, well, they don't exist anymore. But he's like, yeah, but can't we just sort of figure out how to make one anyway?
Right.
And so, because he always liked the image, the better now or now. Meow.
Right.
And he liked the graphic with the cat.
And I think I gave you like the background separate.
Yeah, you did give me the files, so it could be made into something.
Yeah, it could be printed, I guess.
It could be printed into some, I don't know how, but something could happen.
I don't know. That is kind of a bummer that I don't get to sell the cells.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They used to be able to have extra stuff at the end.
Because I was trying to think what would be the trinkets for the Kickstarter. Right? And would it be just printed... Like, right. We can screen print them, I guess, or put them on shirts, or
we'll look into it. We'll figure out some way to make cells out of it to sell to people,
so
or
people could have
giveaways.
A nice trinket. Yeah, because I like the idea of. I mean, if we're going to ask people for money, besides getting the DVD at the end of it, right, which would be the main thing, right? they should get something. There should always be a thing.
Right, and they always have things like, well, for this amount of money, you can have a cameo,
right?
Or, I
right.
have a feeling you might have to do a lot of lunches with people too. Like that's one thing that people do.
I don't mean to give this away. I'm willing to have a lunch with you anyway. I'll be in Portland.
Right.
I'm going to Montreal. I don't know. I'm around. If you wanna have lunch. Yeah. Turns out I'm available.
Well, for example, this where I work, 6 Point Harness, we have we do a lot of cartoons for the internet.
Oh, do you?
And yeah, we do.
Yeah, what is the main thing?
We have a station now on or a channel called Rugburn.
Okay.
And it's a joint venture between 6 Point Harness, my studio, and Titmouse.
Okay.
Who do Metalocalypse and
Venture Brothers?
Venture Brothers now, and they did a season of Black Dynamite, and they did Motor City, which was on beautiful show.
Okay. On Adult Swim as well?
No, it was on Disney XD.
Okay. Oh, nice. So you guys are working with Titmouse?
We're working with Titmouse, the two rival studios working together, and we kind of throw cartoons up against each other, and so we have
like a competition?
Kind of, yeah. Like, and people watch certain shows. We have Axe Cop on Rugburn, which is based on a comic book written by a 5-year-old.
Oh, right.
Illustrated by his
older brother or something?
That the older brother draws.
Yeah.
And we have a great... This is the takeaway for the Dork Foresters, is to watch Apollo Gauntlet on Rugburn. Apollo Gauntlet, which is an insane cartoon that was made by a guy in Winnipeg, by himself, and it's as long as a feature, and it's very rickety animation, brilliantly voiced and written, super funny. I can't recommend it highly
Rangers,
enough.
You have a task.
Apollo Gauntlet.
Apollo Gauntlet. What's the website?
YouTube.com/Rugburn.
That's it. I will link it in the notes.
Awesome.
Greg Franklin, this has been the greatest hour.
Awesome.
First, I love the wrestling stories, the cartoon thing. I could talk about that forever.
Cool.
And I'll have you back on because
can I plug one more thing?
Please plug. That's what
Dick Figures the movie is coming out. Dick Figures is made by a couple guys at 6 Point.
Okay.
And it's a hilarious show about two stick figures that are dicks.
Right.
Speaking of Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Total success story. The movie was funded.
Completely by Kickstarter?
Completely by Kickstarter, the fans.
Excellent.
And that's going to be coming out soon.
All right.
I don't think there's a specific
Maybe
date yet,
September?
but the movie is pretty much done.
The movie's pretty much done. They just have to, the sort of finishing touches. So within the next couple of months, you think? Yep,
and it's going to have a very unique distribution, so stay tuned for all that.
And so dickfigures.com?
RichardFigures.com, because Dick Figures was already taken.
RichardFigures.com is even better.
Yes, it is. You know how those things make you be more creative?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, we can.
Limitations.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Take care of each other out there. Bye.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?